Please go ahead.
Thank you. And for those of you who are on the live call, you can type questions into the chat box or comments or observations, and we will try to respond to you and make this as interactive as it's possible to make an online session. If you are listening to the recorded version of this, then you can't type questions into the chat box because I won't actually be here. You've just got a recording of me, but you can email Service Desk Academy to ask questions, or you can probably find me on Twitter at Stuart Rance, and I try to be helpful if I happen to be online at the time. The training material starts with a few trademarks. What can I tell you about this? So Itil is owned by a company called AXELOS. AXELOS are responsible for creating all of the Itil publications and for writing the exam questions and creating the exam syllabuses, and they own Itil and publish it. PeopleSearch, whose name you also see at the top right here, are the examination institute. They administer all of the exams. They make sure that all of the exams get marked and that the marks are fair and appropriate, and they manage all of the examination system. And then Service Desk Academy is the accredited training organization who are delivering this training to you today. And my name is Stuart Rance. I'm an independent consultant, trainer, and author, as heard in the introduction there. I'm also one of the examiners for Itil, so if you don't like any of the exam questions, chances are I'm the person responsible. So here is the agenda for our training. At the end of each section, we will have a 10-minute break, which should be long enough for me to get a cup of tea and for you to do whatever you need to do. After the fourth section, the one on the Itil Guiding Principles, we'll take a longer break for lunch. And after the seventh section, the first mock exam, we will take a break for the end of day. So during tomorrow's session, we will look at the Itil practices. If you are listening to the recordings, then each of these sections is a separate recording to help you break up and manage the flow of your own learning. So briefly to go through them, the introduction section sets the context for what we're going to be talking about. It's not examinable content, it's simply background information for you about the history of Itil and about why we're doing what we're doing. Service management key concepts will introduce you to the ideas of service providers and service consumers, what a service is, what service management is, co-creation of value, and the importance of thinking about things like outcomes and costs and risks. The 4 dimensions of service management, we'll be talking about understanding how a combination of organizations and people and information and technology and value streams and processes and partners and suppliers provide all the resources that you need to run your IT services, and how important it is to think about all 4 of them as you plan and manage IT services. Section 4, the 7 Itil Guiding Principles, will teach you about 7 guiding principles that you need to know and understand and follow that will help you work with your customers to create value with them. It's probably my personal favorite bit of Itil 4. It's the thing you can take away from this training and use tomorrow to get some value. The service value system looks at how all of the different components fit together to enable you to deliver services. And then the final teaching section of today will look at continual improvement. Continual improvement is an absolutely vital and essential idea that runs all the way through Itil and comes up in many different ways and in many different places. We have a mock exam for you to do. the mock exam. I'll talk about the details of the exam structure. We'll probably allow you to do that one quietly by yourself overnight after we finish today, and you'll have the marking guidelines so that you'll be able to mark it for yourself. Tomorrow, sections 8 through 11 are all about the practices. Itil describes 34 practices, and each practice is a combination of things from those 4 dimensions of service management. So an example of a practice might be incident management. Every service management organization needs to be able to manage their incidents, and they do that using a combination of organizations and people, information and technology, partners and suppliers, and value streams and processes. So we'll talk about some of those practices. Now, 34 practices will be far too many for you to learn about on a foundation course. So Itil just picks a few of them that it thinks are most essential for you to learn about this training. Then we'll finish tomorrow with a mock exam for you to practice doing exam questions, and I'll go through the answers to that mock exam and talk about them with you. And then you'll be provided by Service Desk Academy with an exam voucher that you can use to go and take the real exam when you're ready. My advice will be not to leave it for too long after the training, but that's your decision. So starting with the introduction, and I'm going to give you a rough overview. I'm just going to make this picture of me a bit smaller here so you can see all the slide. This is a 2-day training course, and it's based on Itil best practice. At various points during the 2 days, there will be some exercises for you to do. You can do them as individual exercises. Some of them are very good to do as group discussions if you happen to be with other people. And even if you don't do them as group discussions today, whilst we're bringing them up, you can take them away as things to chat about with your work colleagues later. We'll have some mock exams, and I will be talking to you about exam techniques. And in fact, throughout the slides, there are examples of exam questions that we'll be talking about. And then there will be a formal examination. As I said, you'll be provided with a voucher that would enable you to take the exam to get the Itil accreditation. So let's talk about the exam for a minute. It's a 1-hour exam, 60 minutes, but if English is not your native language, you can have an extra 15 minutes, which gives you time if you're having difficulty with the language. There are 40 multiple choice questions on the exams, and you need to get 65% or 26 of them correct to pass. Each exam question is a basic multiple choice. There is a question. There are 4 answer options marked A, B, C, and D. One of the 4 answers is correct, and the other 3 answers are incorrect, and you simply have to mark the correct answer. Itil Foundation is the first of the Itil certifications you might study for, and I'm not going to dwell for very long on this slide because the next slide shows this same information in a more diagrammatic form, which might be more helpful. Itil Foundation at the bottom is a prerequisite for any of the other Itil training courses, and it will give you an introduction to the language and to the ideas, to the concepts, to the principles, and hopefully it will give you some valuable skills, tools, knowledge, and information that you can take away and use right away. There are higher levels of Itil certification, which you can study and take exams on, that will help you to become an Itil managing professional and will help you learn how to do more complex and more senior management type things. Itil Create, Deliver, and Support is about what I call the engine room of IT. It's about the things you need to do in order to create, deliver, and support IT services. It's all about managing incidents and problems. It's about creating software and infrastructure. It's about creating and testing services and delivering them and supporting them. Drive stakeholder value is about engaging with people and making sure they get value. So it covers, if you like, the beginning and the end of a complete value chain. It covers everything from understanding what customers want, talking to them, negotiating with them, and also talking to users and understanding what they want when they have incidents, when they have problems, when they have requests. And it also includes, how do you make sure that you actually deliver value? I love the Drive Stakeholder Value training. It looks at a complete end-to-end customer journey, as is seen from the viewpoint both of the service provider and the service consumer. High Velocity IT covers everything in Itil from the perspective of a modern high velocity organization that's using ideas from Agile and from DevOps, and that wants to work fast and is probably undergoing some kind of a digital transformation. And Direct, Plan and Improve covers things like governance, management, planning, continual improvement, measurement, reporting, and so on. Anybody who passes all 4 of those exams is accredited as an ITIL Managing Professional. That's a designation. It's not a separate exam, Managing Professional. On the right, you can see ITIL Leader, Digital and IT Strategy. That's aimed at leaders, people setting strategy, people actually running a digital transformation. And anybody who passes that exam and the ITIL Direct Plan and Improve exam gets the designation ITIL Strategic Leader. If you hold both of those designations, then the ITIL Master is available for people who want to demonstrate that they have experience and competence in these fields. ITIL 4 Master does not yet exist, so I can't tell you more about exactly what the content of that is. It will be worked on and launched next year sometime. And finally, for those of you that have already studied ITIL version 3 and are either an ITIL version 3 expert, or you have 17 or more points on the ITIL version 3 accreditation scheme, you can take an exam called Managing Professional Transition. And Managing Professional Transition covers the differences between ITIL v3 and ITIL 4 and will give you access to the ITIL Managing Professional designation. In terms of durations, Itil Foundation is a 2 or 3 day training course. All of the other training courses are typically 3 days, except for Managing Professional Transition, which is typically a 5-day course. I want to go on and talk about the style and type of exam questions that you will see when you take an ITIL exam. This is Bloom's taxonomy, which is as much about learning as it is about examinations, but ITIL uses it to help define the types of exam questions and the types of learning that you need. In Itil Foundation, all of the exam questions are at the lowest 2 levels. Level 1, remember, and level 2, understand. Remember basically says you remember what you were told on the course. So I might show you a definition of what service is, and the exam question will test that you remember the definition of a service. Understand requires a little bit more knowledge than just remembering. It expects you to be able to describe things, maybe to recognize them when the words are not the same as the words that were used on the slide and in the book and in the training, but they have roughly the same sort of meaning. So outside of an exam context, it might be, instead of saying, do you recognize the definition of a service, it might be, I would say to you, do you know what a service is? And you'd say to me, yes, and you'd explain what a service is. In the context of an exam question, you might see something that's not actually the definition of a service, but encapsulates the ideas. Those are the only 2 levels you will see on Itil Foundation. The next levels of training up, the managing professional and strategic leader training, are examined at levels 2 and 3, understand and deploy. So in addition to testing that you understand the concepts, they also test that you can actually use the ideas in a genuine situation. They check that you know how to do something as well as that you understand the ideas. The higher levels are not currently used in Itil 4 examinations. These are the learning objectives as specified in the Itil 4 Foundation syllabus. And they correspond, as you can see, to the agenda that I showed you earlier. Service management concepts, the guiding principles, the 4 dimensions of service management, the service value system, continual improvement, and an overview of the Itil practices are exactly the structure of the syllabus and exactly the structure of this training. But please don't go away thinking that the only purpose of the training is so that you will be able to pass an Itil 4 Foundation exam. It's certainly one of the purposes. I'd like to think that if you come on this training and if you pay attention and if I explain things well, that you will go away and you will take a foundation exam and you'll pass it and you'll have an Itil 4 Foundation certificate, which can be a very valuable thing in itself. There are other reasons why you might want to come on Itil training though. If you learn about IT service management, it will make you better able to do your job. It will give you the tools, the skills, the knowledge, and the understanding you need to be a valuable person working in the area of IT service management. And hopefully, as well as giving you things that you might use in the future, we will give you some things that you can take away and literally use tomorrow, Monday or Tuesday or whenever. Next time you're sat down at work and you have something to do, problem to solve, a decision to make, you might think back to this training and think, I know Stuart told me about these guiding principles. Let me try applying them. I promise if you take the ideas that you learn of this training back to your place of work, it will make you better at doing your job and you'll probably enjoy your work more. Remember, this introductory section of the training is not examinable. So I promise you there is not going to be an exam question on any of the topics on here. But I find these topics interesting. And they come in the introductory section of the Itil Foundation book, and they're important to understand. They give you the background and the context for Itil and what's important about Itil. I started working in IT back in 1979, 40 years ago. We didn't have client-server computing. We didn't have PCs. The world has changed immeasurably since then. Even 10 years ago, cloud computing was just available, but most organizations had their own data center with their own computers in, and they ran their own IT. The world is changing. It's changing fast. Ideas like cloud computing and infrastructure as a service mean that many of the organizations I work with are no longer managing and maintaining their own infrastructure, but they still need to manage and maintain the relationships with the service providers that are providing their infrastructure. They still need to have infrastructure and to make sure it's the right infrastructure for their purposes. And then we have a couple of examples, machine learning and blockchain, of modern software and architecture ideas that are changing how the applications and the services work that our customers are using. The world's changed. There are fresh opportunities for value creation. There are new ways that we can work with our customers to help them derive value from information technology. As a direct result of that, IT is becoming a business driver and a source of competitive advantage. There was a time when IT simply automated things that people already did, enabled them to do the same things faster. What we're increasingly seeing with IT is it enables organizations to do different things they could never do before. And that means that for some organizations, IT service management is now a key strategic ability. Their ability to rapidly create new technology solutions, their ability to adapt those solutions rapidly in an agile way to come up with new ways of working, to come up with new ways of using the technology to create value for themselves and their customers. Organizations that can do that well and efficiently and effectively are becoming more and more competitive. And organizations who don't understand how to run and manage services are going to fall behind. So, service management is evolving, and Itil, which is the most widely adopted guidance on how to do IT service management, has had to evolve with it. Which brings us to Itil 4. Itil 4 will provide you with comprehensive guidance for the management of IT-enabled services in the digital economy. There's a lot of words in there. What are we thinking about? Comprehensive guidance. Itil 4 is comprehensive. It covers everything you need to know, to understand, and to do in order to create, deliver, support, manage, govern IT-enabled services. And the reason for doing that is so that we can create value with our customers and for our customers. Itil 4 provides an operating model. It shows how all the bits fit together, and it shows how the teams should work and operate and continue to play a role in a business strategy. And the bottom bullet here is really important. It's a bit of a throwaway line. Itil 4 provides a holistic end-to-end approach that integrates frameworks such as Lean, Agile, DevOps, etc. These things do not compete with each other. You don't have some organizations do Lean and some do Agile and some do Itil and some do DevOps. And we'll be talking later about, and I'll give you some stories about organizations where you need to combine ideas from all of these things. None of these is what you do. They are somebody else's theoretical model of how things might work. But in your organization, you have to take ideas from Lean, from Agile, from DevOps, from Itil, maybe from theory of constraints, maybe from the Toyota production system. There's all sorts of different management frameworks that will give you ideas. You need to combine them, and Itil 4 provides a lot of really helpful tools that will help you to combine ideas from various fields into the way you manage your systems and services. There's a little bit of a history of Itil here. Itil version 1 was published in about 1989. I think the very first book was about service level management, and eventually it became a set of about 30 books. It was very much focused on teams, on functions, on what does each team in IT need to do in order to deliver services. By about 2001, that was replaced with Itil version 2. Itil version 2 was very much process focused. It looked at all of the different processes that you needed to run in order to deliver IT. It didn't throw away the importance of teams and functions and groups of people, but it built on top of that with a process view, with processes that went across the teams. Processes like incident management, problem management, change management, and so on. In 2007, that was replaced with Itil version 3, and that brought a life cycle approach based on understanding your strategy and then designing your solutions, transitioning those solutions into live operations, operating them, and encapsulating everything in continual improvement. Again, it didn't get rid of the processes and the functions and the teams. It layered another view on top of those. In 2011, there was another minor update to Itil where basically a lot of the language was improved, inconsistencies were removed, and it was updated with relatively small changes. 2016 was significant. There was a publication called Itil v3 Practitioner released, which introduced things like the guiding principles to Itil, and you'll see those guiding principles updated and expanded in Itil 4. And then finally, Itil 4 was published this year, 2019, and it takes, I guess, a more value-focused view on IT service management. Each of these different approaches hasn't replaced the one before, it's built on top of it. It's probably worth telling you a story about how I got introduced to Itil. In the 1990s, I was quite a senior technician working for a large multinational organization doing level 3 support on systems. This was an organization that built hardware, wrote operating systems, sold them to customers, did some applications, and I was a senior support specialist. So some days I might go out with my oscilloscope and hang it on the back of a computer to try and understand why the hardware was misbehaving. And then the next day I might be writing a device driver patch to fix a timing issue. It was a lovely job. I really enjoyed it. And I got called into a management meeting. And they said to me something very interesting. They said, we have a problem. Some of our customers think that our computers and our software are absolutely fabulous. They love us. We never do anything wrong. They keep coming back to buy more. Those are the customers that we love. Some of our customers are always complaining. They've got lots of our computers and none of them are reliable. The software keeps crashing and we don't understand why. We don't understand why it is that for some of our customers, buying the same hardware and the same software, it's really, really good. And for others, they're constantly having problems. Will you, Stuart, please go away and do a little project and understand what's the difference between the customers who love us and the customers who hate us so that we can do something to help improve our products and services and software. So I went away and I went and talked to lots of their customers, and I looked at the history of what sort of incidents and problems they were getting and why they were happening. And about a month later, I went back to my management and I said, it's quite interesting what I learned. The customers that really love you and that think our computers are really great are doing things they call IT service management. They have groups of people who are doing incident management and problem management and change management and configuration management and capacity management and availability management. And the groups of people who hate you and think that you make bad technology and things that aren't reliable have never heard of service management. They're simply managing technology, and the technology keeps letting them down. And they never learn from what goes wrong because they don't have the structures in place to help them to learn. And I said, and I know what we can do about it. And my company put together some IT service management services to teach all of our customers how to do IT service management. And this was a fabulous thing for us to do because as a direct result of those services, we had happier customers and they cost us less. So we were charging them more to give them a bit of service management consulting, and as a direct result, their servers became more reliable, they had fewer problems, fewer incidents, fewer things going wrong. So it was a fabulous opportunity for my company because doing service management made things work better. And that was why I personally changed from being a very senior technologist to being a service management consultant, because it was actually helping my customers more. It was helping my customers to get more value from the technology that we were selling them. And that's why I commend Itil and I commend IT service management to anybody listening. That brings us to the end of this introduction. Remember, the introduction isn't examinable, but I hope you've learned a few interesting things about Itil and about IT service management that you'll find helpful.